Alright, I'm all in.
I Phil, all you can eat.
I think this is the way to go out. This is the way to go out.
What do you know? I'm pumped.
Oh my God.
I'll suck a dick for a 10.
You want a good night? Great night.
Here's $100 for that. You had no influence over.
If you already saw this clip and maybe that one,
You want to see that?
But what, we know 2 kings are dead.
I was like, oh, I got a face.
This is basically a coin flip.
Is it all in?
There it is. Oh,
2 aces. And you're not gonna lose it.
dude.
And finally, MrBeast
Jesus.
wins one.
you also probably watched the Hustler live stream with MrBeast, Ninja, Tom Twan and Wilhelm Youth. If not, I put a link into the description because it's highly recommended. There's so much going on, crazy stuff, crazy hands, a lot of action. And the day after we played a session as well at our standard location, and a lot of my opponents actually watched this stream as well and may got inspired as well as I was to mix it up sometimes, widen up our opening ranges and play a little crazy as well. As usual in this 2-2 game, I buy in for €300 and actually I got a lot of premium and playable hands at the beginning and we are starting hot right away. Let's hop right into the action. Have fun. Ten minutes into the session we pick up our first hand. We are in the cutoff with Jack 10 of diamonds. There's a big blind straddle to 4, so we actually play a 2-4 game this round. It folds around to me and I raise to 12, the button and the big blind behind me call and we see a flop 3-ways. The flop comes queen 6 deuce rainbow with 1 diamond. So we flop ourselves nothing but some backdoor draws, but the board is very dry. My opponents shouldn't hit too much as well on this board and after they check to me I decide to c-bet for 20. The button behind me thinks 20 is fair enough, but the big blind get out of the way and we see a turn heads up now and the dealer shows us the jack of clubs. We improve to a pair, but it's only second pair, so I slow down here on the turn and check to my opponent and see what he wants to do. He decides to bet for 40 now. Since I improved to a pair, I think it would be a shame to fold here right away, so I stick in 40 as well and we see a river in form of the queen of diamonds. In general, a very good card for me because it's less likely my opponent has a queen and also possible backdoor straight draws bricked as well. I think there's no reason to bet here. I play my hand like a bluff catcher and check to my opponent. And he is not done with betting. He bets again, this time for 55. I mean, he could have a queen, but I think he's capable of floating the flop here a lot and see what develops. He could turn a 6 into a bluff as well, and because of the already named reasons, I decide to call here on the river and my opponent doesn't seem happy. He doesn't want to show his hand and just announces 9 high. So I turn over Jack 10 and we are good. Off to a very good start and let's go on to the next one. In the second hand of the night I want to go over, I have ace queen offsuit in the small blind. We see an under the gun open to 10 and it folds to me. In hindsight, in the offsuit variety, I think I like a 3-bet more than a call, but I think you can mix in some calls here as well sometimes, and that's what I do. I stick in 10 as well, and that invites the big blind, who calls as the third player. We see a nice looking flop of queen 8-7 with 2 diamonds. The big blind and I decide to check to the aggressor and he wants to c-bet. He bets half pot for 15. Since this board is so draw heavy and I have a lot of check raises with semi bluffs, I want to mix in some check raises as well with mate hands like top pair, top kicker, even though that's on the lower end of our value check raises. Anyway, I raise to 50 right away here, the big blind folds and the early position player thinks about it some time and then decides to call. We see the 7 of hearts on the turn and I want to keep up the aggression since this is basically a blank. But if my opponent calls again, I have to play with caution on the river, because you also can have some overpairs besides his possible queen x hands or maybe flush draws like ace jack or ace 10 of diamonds. As said, I want to keep up the aggression and bet 80 here. He goes into the tank for 1 minute and calls again. The dealer burns and shows us an unfortunate river card in form of the 10 of diamonds. So the obvious front door flush draw got there, maybe hands like queen 10 now beat us, and in general a very bad card, unless I had the ace of diamonds, but I don't. If I had the ace of diamonds, I think a jam is a very nice play here, but so I decide to slow down and check to my opponent. Luckily he checks back, but unluckily for us, my opponent shows us pocket kings. Indeed he had an overpair and we lose this one, but never mind guys, it didn't take much time until we pick our next premium hand, and let's go to it. Before we go into the next hand, it's interesting to know that there was a promotion going on this evening. As the table was full of players, we draw 2 cards that build a hand, and if you win with this hand, you get an extra 50 euro. And we drawed a premium hand, Ace King. So here in this hand, I'm in middle position and I get dealt Ace King offsuit. So if I win this hand, I get an extra 50 euro. The table is pretty loose and splashy, and we already talked about it. If one of us gets Ace King, we ship it in right away, and so I do. I go all in for around 260 to 270-ish, and I'm pretty sure at least one of them will call me because they don't want to give me the extra money, and so it comes. The low jack behind me calls for less, for 80 total, but all the other players get out of the way. So we see a run out, no more action, and the board runs out 10, 9 deuce. The turn brings an 8 and the river brings another deuce. So not sure if my hand is good, but my opponent seems kind of frustrated. He mugs his hand when I turn over Ace King and we are good. We scoop in this nice little pot plus an extra 50 euro. Feels good, and yeah, not even 10 minutes go by until we pick up our next premium hand. For my circumstances, I'm playing very loose this evening. I mix it up with hands like 10-8, straddling to 4, to 8 and even to 16. Of course, not everything went my way, but it helps to build an image, and it even more helps if you get premiums as well. And no one believes you. In this hand, I have Ace King offsuit in middle position. There is a limp before me and I raise to 10. The hijack decides to call, and now the cutoff decides to squeeze to 35. It folds back to me, and since I'm out of position and I don't want to invite the hijack to call as well here, I decide to 4-bet right away to 110. The hijack folds and the cutoff thinks for some time before end up calling. The cutoff and I are battling in those kind of spots for like 2 years now, and most of the time he gets the best of it in those situations, but now I want revenge. But let us see a flop first. The dealer burns and shows us King 6-3 rainbow. So pretty nice flop for our hand, and since the pot is already around 230-ish, I want to downbet here. I bet 80 this time. I just have 250 behind and I already plan to jam the rest of my stack in on any blank turn, but let's wait for the decision of the cutoff first. He goes into the tank for like 1 minute and decides to call. So please dealer, give us a blank on the turn so I will jam, and he does. In my opinion, he turns over an offsuit 5. Of course there is a chance my opponent could slow play aces here since he is in position, but if he does, it's a pretty big cooler and it is what it is. Anyway, I jam for my remaining 250-ish and the cutoff goes into the tank for 2 minutes. So at least I know I'm not up against aces. At best, I think he has Ace King himself or maybe a lower pocket pair. At first I thought he sticks in the 250, but no, after 2 minutes he decided to fold and later told us he folded pocket jacks. So he made a good fold and we finally got one against him. Greetings to you, my boy. Our stack looks good again, and in this hand we are only 6-handed and I'm in the under the gun / low jack position and I straddle to 4. 4 players decide to limp to me and I look down at pocket kings. Is there a better feeling? Not so much, I guess. I make it plus 25 to go. The hijack likes pain because he calls and it folds to the button, who thinks about it for some time and then decides to jam all in for 153. What is going on? I'm next to act and I have the hijack player behind me, and I think about it for some time what is the best play just to call or put him all in. He has around 200 euro effective behind. At the end I come to the conclusion that it looks even stronger if I just call here, so I rip it in myself for 250 effective, and now the hijack goes into the tank. It doesn't seem like he wants to fold. He's staring at me and trying to get a tell or something. I don't really know, but what I know that he also watched the Hustler live stream yesterday. After 2 minutes he was ready to fold his hand, but ultimately puts in the chips and goes all in for 250 effective. What is going on? Massive pot, 3-way all in, and we have kings. No more action, and now it's the dealer's turn. He puts out a flop of 10-5 deuce. The turn is a jack, and the river is another deuce. Very nice card. I turn over my hand and we are good. Both of my opponents don't show their hand, but the hijack, who also watched the Hustler live stream yesterday, he told me after the session that he had 6-7 suited and just wanted to gamble. Unfortunately for him, a very bad run out for this hand, and we scooped this massive pot. And I kind of feel like Alexandra Botes after her 4-way all in.
Even Magic can't do that. And Botes again. Are you kidding me?
I continue to play aggressive with marginal hands like ace-9 or queen-deuce, but also because of my aggressive play post-flop, I can win some more small pots and I'm almost at a stack of 1k. Then we pick up pocket jacks in the next hand. We are in the low jack and it folds to me and I raise to 7. The hijack, the very aggressive player behind me, 3-bets to 27. It folds to the small blind, who cold calls. The small blind is a very tight player. At this point I narrow him down to pocket 10s, pocket queens or ace king. I think better hands we would 4-bet with, and with weaker hands he would just fold. So I think sometimes a 4-bet myself would be a good play here, but in this situation I decide to call. So we go 3 ways to a flop of 10-6 for rainbow. Pretty good board for our hand, but I'm already afraid of the small blind. He checks and I decide to play in flow as well and check to the hijack aggressor, and he c-bets for 60. A nightmare comes true when the small blind now decides to jam and he has only around 150 behind. What an ugly spot. But to make things short, I have a really bad feeling because of the tight image of the small blind, and I let my hand go and the hijack insta calls. I don't really know what the runout was, but I know that they chopped up the pot because they both show pocket queens. So we made a correct laydown in this situation. Not really sure it's correct long term, but I had a really bad feeling, and after this action, jacks doesn't seem too good anymore. We dodged a bullet here, let's go on to the next one. This one is interesting. Here we are in middle position with pocket 8s. We see a small blind straddle to 5 because he buys the button. The under the gun player limps and it's on me, I raise to 20. The small blind straddler and the under the gun limper decide to call as well, and we are 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes 10-5-5. The small blind checks and now the under the gun player makes an interesting move and bets 15. Not sure if a raise on my side is a good play, but I decide to just call here and it's the small blind's turn. He decides to raise to 45. The small blind, by the way, is the aggressive player we already played against in this 4-bet pot with ace king. I think he's very capable to put us in difficult spots. It's most likely we don't have a 5, maybe a 10 at best, and I think he knows that as well. It's already a little suspect to me. The under the gun player calls the 35 and I get a very good price to peel at least once here. So I stick in 30 more and we go to a turn and the dealer rolls over the jack of clubs, bringing in a backdoor flush draw, but I think this card doesn't change too much. The small blind now keeps betting and he bets 80 this time. The under the gun player tanks for a little, but then noticed I'm still left behind and he decides on a fold, and to me it still feels a little suspect here. Of course, if he has a 5, he wants to keep barreling here, but if he had a 10, I don't think so. Of course, he still can have some random bluffs. trying to represent a 5, and I still don't believe him. So I go with my gut and stick in 80 as well, and we see the 9 of spades on the turn. At least the backdoor flush drop rigged, but another overcard to my pair and the board looks very wet. My opponent in the small blind, who likes to put us in difficult spots, does it again, and he keeps barreling for 200. Not gonna lie to you guys, I go into the tank for 5 minutes and I'm excused myself to the table, but as I said, versus this kind of opponent, this play feel kinda suspect to me. After 3 minutes I was ready to flick in one chip to call, but at the end of the 5 minutes I decide to ultimately let my hand go, tell my opponent that I have pocket 8s and I really wanted to hero call. After I fold, he finally can relax and shows us pocket 7s. So our intuition would be right here in this spot, but in the long term I think that's a clear fold. But at least I'm not like Wilhelm when I saw his hand.
No.
Did you not fold? I didn't fold.
you
I'm
shouldn't
thinking.
have. Did you?
Let's have a deal. Put in 5K.
Yeah,
I think that's generous. I don't know, whatever. I don't care.
That's a good.
The more often I watch this clip, I got more and more triggered. Anyway, we don't have time to breathe because in the very next hand we get dealt pocket 10s. I'm in early position now and I raise to 7. The +1 player calls and the small blind calls. Still steaming because of the last hand. I get a little more relaxed when we see a flop of queen 10-6 rainbow. Of course I want to c-bet and build a pot right now. I bet 15. The +1 decides to call, but the small blind gets out of the way. We see a blank on the turn in form of an offsuit 5, completing the rainbow, and of course I want to keep betting. I double the amount now and bet 30. To my surprise, the +1 player reaches for raising chips. He raises this pot up almost just a min raise to 65. That seems pretty strong to me, to be honest. At least I think he has 2 pair or maybe a set. He is an aggressive opponent, so I'm pretty sure he would 3-bet with queens, so maybe has pocket 6s or 5s. These kind of hands would never fold to a 3-bet on the turn here, and we are very deep. So I think I want to put in the re-raise, and that's indeed what I do. I raise to 175. Not much time goes by and he decides on a call. Let's see a river. I want to see a blank, but the dealer rolls over the ace of diamonds. Not exactly a blank. My opponent could have king jack sometimes, but I don't think he would call a 3-bet on the turn with this hand. So I have to think about a sizing which you want to call with 2 pair or a set. And after 1 minute of thinking, I decide 200 is a good bet to call. After my bet, he seemed like he just wants to call or fold his hands, so I'm pretty sure I'm good here. And he thinks about it for like 2 minutes and even said something like, if you got 2 pair on the river here, you are so lucky. And he finally decides on a call. I turn over my 10s and of course we are good. We scoop in this massive pot and feeling pretty good right away again, and let's go on to the next one. 40 minutes of loose plays go by and then we are under the gun position and straddle to 4. The big blind limps, the hijack only raises to 10, the cutoff calls, and I look down at pocket kings again. Definitely gonna raise here, I make it 50 to go. To my surprise, the big blind now jams, but he's a short stack and only has 80 euro total. The other player get out of the way and of course I snap call here. No more action to be found and we turn over our hands and the big blind shows ace queen offsuit. So we just need to fade that goddamn ace that always comes when you have pocket kings. We see a flop of 6-5-3, so looking pretty good so far, but the turn of course comes an ace. The river is no help for us and we lose with pocket kings. Unfortunately the game kinda broke after that hand. We played some bomb pots at the end and for the last hand a 25 euro PLO flip 4 ways. Unfortunately nothing went my way at the end, but we still booked a nice winning session. Let's go to the session update. So okay guys, short session update, but at first I want to say it feels great to be at the live poker tables again, and it's also great to play again at our standard location. That's my home location and it feels amazing to play here again. It was like 1 month ago since I played here. And yeah, it was a very good session. I watched the Hustler live stream with the content creators before this game, and I felt kind of motivated to mix it up sometimes here as well. Anyway, I was in the game for 300 euro, no rebuy this time, and out of the game for 880 euro. Unfortunately, I lost something back at the end, but it is what it is. A nice win of 580 euro. Amazing for a 2-2 game, and yeah, the win streak continues. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe if you like my videos, much appreciated, and have a good one. Goodbye, ciao.